was not just a political movement. It was a powerful uprising against injustice, a demand for dignity, and a testament to the will of the people. But memory alone is not enough. To truly honor its legacy, we must engage with it critically, revisit it thoughtfully, and carry its lessons forward with purpose. This conference is a step in that direction, a space to foster academic inquiry, preserve historical truth, and keep alive the spirit of resistance and hope that July symbolized. Having said that, we would like to commence our today's event by remembering all the brave martyrs of the July Revolution whose blood and sacrifice gave us this renewed independence. We would also like to solemnly remember all the victims from the tragic plane crash in Milestone School and College. We pray for their deceased souls, their bereaved families, and all those who continue to fight for their lives at the hospital.
My name is Ahmeduddin, and I'll be the session moderator for the opening plenary. We'll kickstart our today's conference with recitation from the Holy Quran. So I may please call on stage Hamidul Rashid Jamil, please.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. صدق الله العظيم. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and ever. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We will now invite Ram Prasad Sahatoku to recite a few verses from the Gita.
Om Tat Sat Om Ajnanatimirandhanasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Sukshurunmunitazana Tasmai Sri Gurubhai Namaha. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Atha Gitaর ৪র্থ অধ্যায়, শ্লোক নম্বর ৭। यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर् भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतं धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय सम्भवामि युगे युगे। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्ति मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्ति 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 ओम।
We will now take a walk down memory lane to relive the unforgettable days of July through a brief documentary prepared by the conference organizing committee. I would like to request the organizers to play the documentary on our slides, please.
In 2024, Bangladesh witnessed a massive mass uprising like never before. In the shadow of a fascist regime, under the reign of terror and tyranny of the bloodsucker Hasina, a generation stood up and shook the ground beneath oppression. The united power of students and citizens brought down fascism and gave birth to a new Bangladesh. On July 1st, the movement began as an anti-quota protest when the government of Sheikh Hasina reinstated the discriminatory quota system of 2018. Frustration boiled over, years of injustice, corruption, and autocracy had reached a tipping point. Public university students were the first to rise. They demanded merit-based access to government jobs, dignity, and democracy. Then came the insult. Hasina labeled the students' protesters as sons of Rajakar, a betrayal that echoed deep in the nation's soul.
তার মানে কি মুক্তিযোদ্ধার সন্তান নাতিপুতিরা কেউ মেধাবী না, যত রাজাকারের বাচ্চারা নাতিপুতি হলো মেধাবী, তাই না?
In halls and hostels, students chanted in unison, "Tumi ke, ami ke, Rajakar, Rajakar," a cry that turned into a war drum. On July 15th, the regime responded with brutality. The ruling party's student wing, the Bangladesh Chhatra League, unleashed coordinated attacks. Over 100 students were injured. The campuses turned into war zones. Then came the martyrdom of Abu Saeed. On July 16th, he was shot and killed in broad daylight. His blood became the ink of resistance. The martyrdom of Abu Saeed shook the entire nation. The people were outraged. The movement evolved into a full-fledged anti-fascist revolution. From female students to madrasa students, from garment workers to rickshaw pullers, even street children, the nations forgotten joined the fight. This was no longer just a student movement. It became a people's revolution. Everyone came to the streets with a firm determination to become shaheed for the sake of liberating the country from fascist Hasina. In desperation, Hasina shut down the internet. She imposed a nationwide curfew, but she couldn't shut down the spirit of the people. The people refused to bow. They merged under the sun, under bullets, under fear, but never in silence. The anti-fascist movement had begun. As August approached, the movement grew beyond control. And on the noon of August 5th, 2024, Sheikh Hasina fled the country, a dictator defeated by the united will of her people. A new Bangladesh was born, paid for with the lives of 2,000 people, thousands of injuries, and an ocean of bloodshed. We call it the July Uprising, but it was more than that. It was a rebirth, a declaration that Bangladesh belongs to its people, not to fear, not to bloodlines, not to tyranny. To the martyrs of freedom, justice, and dignity, we remember you.
We will now listen to the inaugural reflection by the honorable parents of our July Shaheed, Jahiduzzman Tanveen. I'd like to mention that he was an exceptional student at the Department of Mechanical and Production Engineering at the Islamic University of Technology.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am the father of Jahiduzzman Tanveen. Today, it has been 1 year since we lost our beloved son, but for his every day, we feel like that same day, 18th July. Tanveen joined the July movement not for personal gain. He was not seeking a government job or any favor. He had dreams of building something of his own. He was working on a startup with his friends, filled with hope, passion, and belief in a better future. He was a good son, kind, honest, living, and full of dreams. His loss has left a big hole in our lives. We are still waiting for justice. The people who liked our son and others must be held responsible. We pray that no other person has to feel his pain. We hope the reason our children protested for justice and equality becomes real one day. May Allah forgive him, accept him as a martyr, and grant him Jannatul Firdaus. Thank you for all remembering our son today. Thank you.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমার এখন একটাই পরিচয়, আমি শহীদ জাহিদুজ্জামান তানভীরের আম্মু। আমার ছেলে 18 জুলাই 2024 12টা থেকে 1টার মধ্যে গুলিবিদ্ধ হয়। ও ঢাকা বিভাগে প্রথম শহীদ এবং সারা বাংলাদেশে দ্বিতীয় শহীদ আমার ছেলে। আমার ছেলে সকালবেলা বাসা থেকে বের হয় প্রায় 11:15টার দিকে। আধা ঘন্টা পরে আমার কাছে ফোন আসে যে আপনার ছেলে গুলিবিদ্ধ হয়েছে, আপনি হাসপাতালে আসেন, রক্ত লাগবে। আমি ওখানে দৌড়ায় যাই, যা দেখি ইমার্জেন্সিতে আমার ছেলে শুয়ে আছে। আমি ভাবি আমার ছেলে, সবাই বলতেছে আপনার ছেলে নাই। তখন আমি ভাবলাম যে আমি হাত দিলে মনে হয় আমার ছেলে জ্ঞান ফিরে আসবে। আমি জানালা দিয়ে আমার ছেলেকে হাত দিয়ে ছুঁয়েছি, কিন্তু আমার ছেলের জ্ঞান ফিরে আসে নাই। আমি ভিতরে যাই, ঢুইকা আমার ছেলেকে ধরে কান্না করে আমি অজ্ঞান হয়ে যাই। আমার জ্ঞান ফিরে, পুলিশকে পিটাচ্ছে, তখন আমার জ্ঞান ফিরে। পুলিশ ঢুকছিল আমার ছেলের লাশটা গুম করে ফেলার জন্য, 2টা পুলিশ ঢুকছিল। তখন ওইখানকার ছাত্ররা পুলিশকে পিটায়, তখন আমার জ্ঞান ফিরে। তখন আমার ছেলেকে দিবে না, হাসপাতাল থেকে আমার ছেলেকে দিবে না। পরে আমরা অনেক কষ্ট করে আমার ছেলেকে মানে লুকায় নিয়ে যাবে, তো আমার ছেলেকে শোয়ে আমি চিপার মধ্যে নিয়ে গেছি যেন না নিতে পারে। আমার গায়ের ওড়না দিয়ে আমার ছেলেকে ডেকে ফেলছি যেন আমার ছেলের লাশটা লুকাইতে না পারে। কোনো রকম একটা ভাঙ্গা অ্যাম্বুলেন্স দিয়ে আমার ছেলেকে বাসায় নিয়ে আসছি। আমার ছেলেকে বাসায় নিয়ে আসছি, গোসল করানো হইলো, তারপরে বাড়িতে নিয়ে গেলাম ব্রাহ্মণবাড়িয়া। ব্রাহ্মণবাড়িয়া যায় দেখি প্রায় 60 থেকে 70 জন পুলিশ কবরস্থানে। মানে আমার ছেলেকে তাড়াতাড়ি মাটি দিতে হবে, মাটি না দিলে সমস্যা। ওরা অনেক তাড়াতাড়ি করে আমার ছেলেকে মাটি দিয়ে দেওয়া হয়। আমার প্রায় 1 বছর হয়ে গেছে আমার ছেলে গত হয়ে নাই, আমাকে ছেড়ে চলে গেছে। এই 18 জুলাই মনে হয় প্রতিটা দিনই আমার 18 জুলাই। তানবিন খুব অনেস্ট ছিল, 5 ওয়াক্ত নামাজ পড়তো, তাহাজ্জুদে নামাজ পড়তো। ওর ফেসবুকে শেষ স্ট্যাটাস ছিল, আমরা ইমানের সর্বনিম্ন স্তরে আছি। ও যখন শহীদ হয় তার 16 ঘন্টা আগে ওই স্ট্যাটাসটা দিছে আমার ছেলে। ওর তো কোনো সরকারি চাকরি দরকার ছিল না, ওর ইচ্ছাও ছিল না সরকারি চাকরি করবে, ও ব্যবসা করবে। ও দেশকে খুব ভালোবাসতো, ও দেশকে ভালোবাসতো, দেশের যে দেশ এবং দেশের মানুষকে অনেক ভালোবাসতো। মানুষের যে কোনো অসুবিধায় দৌড়ায় যেত, রাত্রে 1টা নাই 2টা নাই আমার ছেলেকে ফোন দিলে ও চলে যেত। যে কোনো মানুষ যে আমি এই সমস্যায় পড়ছি আসো, আর কেউ একটা সমস্যার মধ্যে পড়লে আমার ছেলেকে ফোন দিয়ে সমাধান খুঁজতো। আমার ছেলে দেশকে খুব ভালোবাসতো, ও দেশের প্রতিবাদ করতে গিয়ে নিজের জীবনটা হারাইলো। আমি তো প্রতিদিন অপেক্ষা থাকি, আমার ছেলে যখন সকালবেলা বের হতো সন্ধ্যায় ফিরতো। আমি এখনো অপেক্ষায় থাকি, সারাদিন অপেক্ষায় থাকি যে সন্ধ্যায় আমার ছেলে বাসায় ফিরবে। কই আমার ছেলে তো বাসায় ফিরে না। এই দেশের জন্য যে আমার ছেলে প্রাণ হারাইছে, দেশ কি দিছে? আমাদের এতগুলি শহীদ হয়েছে, ছেলে পেলেকে কিছুই তো দেয় নাই। এখনো তো বিচারই হচ্ছে না। আদৌ কি বিচার হবে? আমাদের ছেলেরা কি আদৌ বিচার পাবে? এটাই আমার প্রশ্ন সরকারের কাছে। আমি চাই এই দেশে ইলেকশন হওয়ার আগে যেন আমাদের ছেলেদের বিচার হয়, আমাদের শহীদদের বিচার হয়। আমি আমাদের শহীদদের আমি আমাদের ছেলেদের যারা শহীদ হয়েছে এদের একটা দেশে একটা স্বীকৃতি চাই, সনদ চাই। এই সরকার থাকতেই যেন আমাদের শহীদদের একটা সনদ দিয়ে যায়, এটা সরকারের কাছে আমার দাবি এবং আমাদের সৎ শহীদ পরিবারদের দাবি। মা হিসেবে আমি শুধু আমার ছেলের মৃত্যু হোক এটা চাই না, যারা অন্যায় করেছে তাদের জন্য একদিন আল্লাহর কাছে এবং মানুষের কাছে বিচারের যে এই ঘটনা ঘটাইছে বা কার ইন্ধনে এই এতগুলি প্রাণ হারাইলো, আমি এটার বিচার চাই জনগণের কাছে, বিশ্ববাসীর কাছে এর বিচার চাই আমি। তার সাথে আল্লাহর কাছে জনগণ কি বিচার করবে? আল্লাহর কাছে বিচার চাই, আল্লাহ যেন সঠিক বিচারটা করায়। আমাদের মতন আমাদের যে ছেলে দেশের জন্য প্রাণ হারাইছে, এতগুলি সন্তান, কোন এরকম যেন আরো সন্তান মানে জীবিত হয়, যেন অন্যায়ের প্রতিবাদ করতে পারে, এটা আমার আশা বাংলাদেশের এই তরুণ সমাজে। আমার ছেলে দেশকে খুবই ভালোবাসতো, ওকে বলতাম যে তুমি বাহিরে চলে যাও, তোমার আপু তো বাহিরে চলে গেছে, তুমিও যাও। ও বলে কি না আমি যাব না, আমি দেশে থাকবো, দেশে থেকে আমি ব্যবসা করব। ওর ইচ্ছা ছিল মাস্টার্স করবে, বাহিরে যায় করে বাংলাদেশে এসে ও ব্যবসা করবে। ও তার আশা তো আর পূরণ হলো না। এই দেশকে আমাদের এই ক্ষতিপূরণ দিতে পারবে? জানি না কতটুকু ক্ষতিপূরণ আমাদেরকে দিবে, আদৌ পারবে না। একটাই দেশের কাছে চাওয়া, আমাদের এই শহীদদের যেন একটা পরিচয় দেয় এবং আজীবন আমাদের শহীদদেরকে যেন মনে রাখে, এটাই আমার চাওয়া দেশের কাছে। আর কি বলবো, সবাই আমার ছেলের জন্য দোয়া করবেন, আমার ছেলে যেন জান্নাতবাসী হয়, শহীদের মর্যাদা পায়। এটা মনে করে শান্তি আল্লাহর কাছে, যে আমার ছেলে শহীদ হয়েছে, দেশের জন্য শহীদ হয়েছে, এটা মনে হলে আল্লাহর কাছে শান্তি। আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আল্লাহর কাছে হাজার হাজার শুকরিয়া আদায় করি আমি।
Thank you so much, Uncle and Auntie, for sharing your valuable thoughts. We hope and pray that Tanvin's martyrdom brings forth much needed reform and justice in our country. We would now like to call forward one of the conveners of this conference, Professor Muhammad Shariful Islam, to present his opening remarks. Professor Muhammad Shariful Islam is a professor in the Department of Political Sciences at University of Dhaka. He is now also serving as a member of the National Independent Inquiry Commission on the BDR massacre.
Understandably, it's not that easy to speak when you listen to the parents of somebody else, somebody who is nowhere on this earth. Such a moving moment. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning to you all. It's my honor to welcome you to this international conference on the July Revolution 2024. I extend my deepest appreciation to all of our guests, distinguished keynote speakers, international delegates, respected colleagues, and dear students, especially Mr. Adilur Rahman Khan, Honorable Advisor to the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Professor Mamun Ahmed, Honorable Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, Mr. Mahmoodur Rahman, Editor of Daily Amar Desh, Mr. John F. Daniluj, United States diplomat, Professor Yasin Aktay from Turkey, Professor Dilroshan Jinnat Aronazdin, Honorable Pro-Vice Chancellor of Open University, Professor Nasima Khatun, Chair of the Department of Political Science, and all our esteemed guests from home and abroad. Thank you for standing with us. We're gathered not just to recall a political uprising, but to confront a moral crisis that has shaped our present and continues to haunt our future. The July Revolution 2024 was a response to a regime that had crossed every line of human decency, marked by enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, torture in custody, corruption without any accountability, and repression without any shame. As a human rights researcher and as a political science professor, I cannot speak of this revolution in abstract terms. I've spoken to families who have lost sons to the night. I've read confessions extracted under torture. I've seen democracy eroded word by word, body by body. But I've also seen hope in the courage of our students, in the creativity of digital resistance, and in the fire that no bullet could extinguish. Once again, the University of Dhaka stood as the conscience of the nation. It's our students from public and private universities, and even from secondary schools and colleges, who stood firm when the state faltered. Their sacrifice must not be forgotten, nor must it be manipulated or erased. This conference is our effort to document, defend, and dignify that proud moment. We'll listen to scholars, activists, and survivors. We'll challenge the distortion of power with the discipline of truth. Let's use this gathering not only to reflect, but to commit to justice, to memory, and to the unfinished work of building a truly democratic Bangladesh. On behalf of the organizing committee, I thank you for being here. Many of our discussions, be honest, bold, and rooted in the moral clarity this moment demands. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our heartfelt thanks to Professor Muhammad Shariful Islam, sir. Up next, we would like to request to come on stage the session chair for the morning, Professor Dr. Mamoon Ahmed, the Pro Vice Chancellor, Academic of the University of Dhaka.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Adilur Rahman Khan, distinguished speaker, Dr. Muhammad Rahman, respected keynote speakers, distinguished guests from home and abroad, esteemed scholars, professors, paper presenters, diplomats, my fellow colleagues, students, and friends. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. I'm deeply honored and privileged to stand before you today at the inauguration of this international conference on the July Revolution 2024. Truly, this is a landmark event. This is landmark because this event brings together scholars and activists from across the world to reflect upon one of the most significant turning points in the modern political history of Bangladesh. Let me begin by extending my warmest welcome and heartfelt gratitude to all of you who have joined us to participate in this important dialogue. First of all, I thank our honorable keynote speakers for gracing us with their presence and wisdom. Your contributions to this conference are not merely academic. They are acts of solidarity, of standing with truth in times of turbulence. To our foreign delegates and professors, many of whom have traveled across continents to be with us, thank you. Your presence is a reminder that the pursuit of justice, freedom, and democracy has no borders. We are deeply honored to have you here today. To our conference conveners, organizers, both from Dhaka University and our partner institutions. Your tireless work, intellectual commitment, and meticulous planning have brought this event to life. On behalf of the university leadership, I convey our deepest appreciation. To the paper presenters who have spent countless hours researching, writing, and preparing to share their insights, your work will shape the scholarly record of this revolution for generations to come. And to all participants, students, and observers, thank you for your curiosity, your courage, and your commitment to truth. Ladies and gentlemen, the July Revolution 2024 was not merely a protest. It was a national awakening. It was a moment when the people of Bangladesh, especially its youth, rose with unprecedented unity to challenge cruel authoritarian regime, demand democratic accountability, and reclaim their right to shape their own future. It was a response to years of mindless repression, corruption, electoral manipulation, and state violence. And like so many times in our history, the heartbeat of this revolution was felt most strongly at the University of Dhaka, right here in this campus. For over a century, Dhaka University has been more than an institution of higher learning. It has been the cradle of resistance, the voice of conscience, and torchbearer of democratic struggle in Bangladesh. The students and faculty of the university have stood at the forefront of every major struggle for justice in this land. From the language movement of 1952, the mass uprising of 1969, the liberation war of 1971 to anti-Ershad movement of 1980s. In every time, they played leading role. In July 24, that legacy was not only continued, it was renewed and redefined. What set the July Revolution apart was the moral clarity and digital fluency of student leaders. It was a youth who turned outrage into organization, slogans into strategy, and fear into fearless defiance. Our young students refused to be silenced. Many of these students faced tear gas, bullets, imprisonment, and torture, and yet they persisted. Their sacrifice has gifted us a renewed sense of national dignity and opened a path for democratic revival. As we gather here today to study and reflect on this revolution, let us remember that it was these young voices who led us. These young boys and girls were armed not with weapons, but with ideas, values, and vision. Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply thankful to many foreign professors, conveners, and scholars who have lent their expertise and platforms to document and interpret the July Revolution. Your solidarity in organizing panels, writing opinions, publishing commentaries, and supporting Bangladeshi scholars during the times of crackdown will never be forgotten. This conference is a product of that collaboration, a shared effort to ensure that the July Revolution is not erased, distorted, or forgotten. As we commence this important gathering, may I urge all participants to engage with openness, critical reflection, and deep sense of responsibility. The July Revolution is still a living memory. Its wounds are fresh, its heroes are among us, its future still unfolding. Let this conference serve as a space not just for academic analysis, but for commemoration, dialogue, and renewal. Let us honor the past, interrogate the present, and chart a future rooted in democracy, dignity, and justice. Once again, on behalf of the University of Dhaka, I offer my warmest thanks to all of you. May this conference succeed in illuminating truth, forging solidarity, and inspiring action. May the memory of the July Revolution forever remind us that the fight for democracy is never over and never in vain. Thank you, and Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Mahmoud Ahmed Sar, for your valuable insight. We would like to now invite and welcome our chief guest of today's inaugural session, Adil Rahman Khan, who is the Honorable Advisor of the Housing and Public Works of Industries for the Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. He has also been one of Bangladesh's most devoted human rights defenders. In his decades of activism, he has established a nationwide network of rights defenders through his prominent human rights organization, Odekar. Can I please request Mr. Adil Rahman to come to the stage and share a few words?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, Mr. Mamun Ahmed, Editor of the Daily Amar Desh, Dr. Mahmudur Rahman, Diplomat, Mr. John Daniel Witch, Professor and Chair of the Department of Political Science, Nasima Khatun, Professor Yasin Atkay from Turkey, members from the martyred families, conveners of the conference, esteemed keynote speakers, distinguished foreign guests and professors, organizers, scholars, and participants. Assalamu alaikum. This is both a solemn duty and a deep honor to speak before you today at this international conference on the July Revolution of 2024. Held in the sacred heart of Bangladesh's democratic soul, Dhaka University. As someone who has stood with the victims of state violence for decades, first as a human rights defender, and now as a servant entrusted with rebuilding this wounded republic. I bring with me the burden of memory, the urgency of justice, and the hope of national healing. Let me begin by acknowledging the presence of Madam Nurul Izzah Anwar, who will speak in the afternoon session. Her courage, both personal and political, is inspirational. As a leader, she has seen her own father imprisoned and vilified under unjust regimes. Her solidarity in this moment of our reckoning is not only symbolic, it's profoundly meaningful. I would like to thank Ms. Azza for standing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather here to remember, to reflect, and to hold to account the fascist Awami League regime, which fell last year after 15.5 years of brutal rule, which has left behind a deep wound on our collective conscience. Cruelty was their system. The regime weaponized the state against its own people. The Rapid Action Battalion, police, and intelligence agencies were turned into tools of terror. Disappearances became routine. Thousands of political dissidents, student activists, and journalists were abducted, tortured, or silenced forever. Prisons overflowed not with criminals, but with poets, professors, and patriots. Digital security laws criminalized thoughts. Facebook posts invited midnight knocks. Students who dreamed of a better Bangladesh were beaten, maimed, and in some cases, martyred. Their only crime was dissent. This conference is not merely academic. It is a form of public witnessing. It's a reclaiming of memory from distortion. It's a signal to the world that we refuse to forget. That those who disappeared are not forgotten. That the mothers who cried in the darkness are not alone. That the bullet holes in university walls, in student hostels, in homes will one day be counted in the architecture of justice. But let us not fool ourselves. The fall of a regime does not guarantee the birth of justice. We are still in the early hours of a fragile transition. Yes, fascist Hasina has been dethroned, but the structures of repression, legal, bureaucratic, and psychological still linger. The judiciary must be liberated from fear. The security forces must be reformed, not just renamed. The victims must be heard as agents of justice. And above all, we must protect the student movement, the soul of revolution, from being hijacked or co-opted. Reconstruction is a hard task. It requires humility, accountability, and imagination. We must now build a Bangladesh where democracy is not just electoral, but ethical, where no child grows up afraid to speak their mind, where no mother buries her son for daring to dream. Dhaka University once again stood at the helm of resistance. Its classrooms became command posts, its corridors became rallying grounds, its students became warriors of conscience. We owe a debt to gratitude to this institution, not only for its heroic role, but for hosting this conference and inviting voices from across the world to reflect on what happened, why it happened, and how we can ensure it never happens again. Let me thank the distinguished foreign professors and researchers, many of whom supported the cause of Bangladeshi democracy even when it was dangerous to do so. Your participation, your publications, your platforms, your petitions, and your presence gave us hope. Thanks are due to the organizers, especially the conveners, volunteers, and university staff. Your dedication to truth and justice is deeply appreciated. Thank you, participants and panelists. Your engagement makes this conference more than just a commemoration. It becomes a living archive of resistance and remembrance. The survivors and families of victims, some of whom are with us today, please know that your suffering is not in vain. The path of justice may be long, but we are here to travel it together. Dear friends, this conference is only a beginning. Let us spark a national archive of testimonies, videos, photographs, and forensic records of the July Revolution. A network of transnational scholars and activists who will monitor and support Bangladesh's path to justice. Curricular reform so that the story of the revolution is taught in every school and university, not as propaganda, but as living history. Let us transform this conference into a covenant, a promise that never again will power become unaccountable, that no regime will ever again turn the people into prisoners in their own land. Thank you once again, especially the brave young souls whose courage gave birth to a new dawn. Let us honor their legacy, not just with words, but with work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us. We would now like to call upon stage our honorable keynote speaker for this session, Dr. Mahmoud Rahman, who is the editor and owner of Bangladesh daily newspaper Amar Desh. He has also been involved in activism, including South Asian Policy Initiative. He will present a keynote titled Indian Hegemony and the July Revolution 2024.
Hello. Family members of the July martyrs, Honorable Advisor to the interim government, scholars, faculty members of Dhaka University, students of Dhaka University, distinguished guests, media, Assalamu alaikum. Let me start with the statement that July Revolution was an organic revolution simultaneously against a brutal fascist regime and external hegemonic power. Why I am saying so, to understand that point, that it was a simultaneous revolution, we need to know slightly the background of this region, South Asia. Bangladesh is one of the 8 states that constitute South Asia. And South Asia is the largest region in the world in terms of population. And this region, we have experienced colonial subjugation, many of the countries of this region. This is important to understand the present situation of South Asia. And in this region, India is by far the largest, the strongest, and materially superior nation. And India has got also geostrategic advantage. It is at the center of South Asia. And in fact, India has maritime and land borders with every single country of South Asia except Afghanistan. So India sees itself as a natural hegemonic power. It seems they suffer from the mindset that there should be a unipolar system in this region. But the problem is the smaller nations, the nationalistic aspiration of the smaller nation has always challenged that Indian perception. And also because there is another strong country in this region, which is Pakistan, although not so powerful in comparison to India, but it is an atomic power. So that actually created an obstacle in achieving Indian dream to establish a regional order at its will. So under this situation, we need to understand the foreign policy doctrine of India vis-a-vis Bangladesh. The present government of India, the BJP, is known for its extremist policies, and they believe in greater India. And in their perception, in the perception of the founding fathers of BJP, or the fountainhead of BJP is RSS, and the founding father, they think that India is from Afghanistan until Sri Lanka. That's their mindset of greater India. And we, the smaller nations, are challenging that hegemonic mindset. To give you an example, we may think that only it is BJP which thinks about India being the natural leader or natural hegemonic power in the region, but it is not so. It actually cuts across the political spectrum of India. Let me read a comment made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi, the present leader of the opposition, when he said in a political meeting in 2017, what he said, quote unquote, quote, "You know, when our family commits to a task, it also completes it. In the past too, members of the Gandhi family have achieved the goals they have initiated, like the freedom of country, dividing Pakistan in two, and leading nation into the 21st century. Mark, dividing Pakistan in two. So what Rahul Gandhi is saying, that his family was instrumental in dividing Pakistan into two, that means helping Bangladesh to achieve its independence in 1971 War of Liberation. But mind it, it was no philanthropic acts on the part of India. It was a cold geopolitical calculation on the part of them. Now, what they thought that after the breakdown of Pakistan, the Bangladesh will be subservient to India. But they forgot that 90% of the population of Bangladesh are Muslims. And when a country with a 90% of population of Muslims will never surrender to Hindu India, that they forgot. And they were very surprised when there was a revival of sudden Islamic identity immediately after the liberation. It started immediately after the liberation, because after the liberation, the question came into the mind of the people of Bangladesh was two. One question was whether the Bengali Muslim identity had been changed by the creation of an independent Bangladesh. Because we have a unique identity as Bengali Muslim. That cannot be changed just by creation of Bangladesh. And the second question was, in the mind of the people of Bangladesh, by embracing Bengali nationalism, do we need to shed our Islamic culture and heritage? That was very important, because the previous regime, the fascist regime, was the proponent of so-called Bengali nationalism. So the people of Bangladesh, they asked themselves, do we need to shed our Islamic culture and heritage? That cannot be the case. So from my own study of geopolitics, I'm a student of geopolitics, I have found that India has got 5 goals in regards to its foreign policy in Bangladesh. It's my analysis. You may agree, the academics may agree, or you may argue, debate. So number 1, Indian desire was to see a loyal regime in Dhaka that would support and complement its South Asia and China policy. So they want Bangladesh to complement its foreign policy, 1. Number 2, India wants to ensure that Bangladesh does not pose any security threat according to the perception of Delhi. So security threat, it's not an objective word. It is as per the perception of Delhi, we have to understand. Number 3, India wishes to use the air, water, and land routes of Bangladesh for linking the insurgency-infested and geographically vulnerable northeast region with other parts of India through Bangladesh. That means India wants a corridor through Bangladesh to take care of their insurgency in the northeast. Number 4, India expects Bangladesh to always agree to adopt a bilateral approach to resolve disputes. Any third-party initiative is unacceptable to Delhi. For example, during the latest India-Pakistan four-day skirmish, I don't call it war, 4-day skirmish, President Trump indicated that he is interested in to be involved in solving the Kashmir dispute. India rejected, because India always, they want that everything to be resolved bilaterally. No third party is allowed. So in the Bangladesh situation also, we have many discords with India, bilateral discords with India. But India wants that it has to be resolved bilaterally, because if it is internationalized, then they cannot force Bangladesh to accept their viewpoint. So that's their goal. And number 5, Dhaka is expected to work as an extension of Indian security apparatus to control rise of any so-called Islamist and anti-Indian tendency in Bangladesh. So these are the 5 goals that India wants from Bangladesh, basically, among other things. Well, I'm not talking about the exploitation, economic or political exploitation, that sort of thing. I am talking about the specific Indian goals, which I understand from their behavior of the last 70 years in the subcontinent. Now, India never achieved that until Sheikh Hasina came to power in 2009. So that was the opportune moment for India to get all five from its puppet regime in Bangladesh. And that is the reason why India, being a democratic country itself, supported an authoritarian regime in Bangladesh, because they thought that if Hasina is there, only then their goal will be fulfilled. So that was the Indian policy in the case of Bangladesh. That's why it blatantly supported the farcical elections, so-called elections in 2014, 2018, and 2024. And very interesting, in 2014, it was not BJP in power. It was the Congress in power. In 2018, it was BJP in power. And 2024, the BJP in power. So in the case of the foreign policy paradigm in regards to Bangladesh, there is no difference between BJP and Congress. We have to understand that thing very clearly. But because of this wrong policy of India, they forgot or they overlooked the rising anti-Indian tendency among the population of Bangladesh. Because people started to see India as an enemy because of its support, its blind support for a brutal regime which destroyed every single institution in this country. From judiciary to executive, even to security, they have destroyed, I feel, in fact, they have destroyed the security of Bangladesh, absolutely. So then the people started to rise in revolt. It took time, but it was inevitable. And the inevitable thing happened in 2014. And it was a very interesting movement, you know. When I think about the July Revolution, I find it's a combination of secular, Islamist, and nationalist movement. Sort of a unique movement in the history of world revolution. Why I am calling it a secular revolution? Because the movement itself started with the demand to abolish quota system in the government job. The meritorious students of all universities, they wanted abolition of the patronage. And patronage to whom? Patronage to the party thugs and the selected elites of the society. That's the students wanted to finish. And that's why it is called, I'm saying in Bengali, I'm sorry, the foreigners will not understand, it is called Boishamya Birodhi Andolon. Because it is anti-discriminatory movement, Boishamya Birodhi Andolon, because they wanted this patronage system to finish forever. So basically it was a secular movement, nothing to do with religion. So that's why I call July Revolution a secular revolution. Now I'm coming to the point why I'm calling it an Islamic revolution as well. Because during the 15 years or more than 15 years of the brutal regime, the fascist regime, the Muslims were persecuted. It may sound funny because when you think that 90% of the population of a country is Muslim, how come Muslim can be persecuted? But it is true. You have to understand that in many Muslim countries, there is Islamophobia. So in Bangladesh also, there was Islamophobia. And still there is Islamophobia in the certain section of the society. So Sheikh Hasina used that Islamophobia to extend her illegal rule. So that's why Muslims were persecuted. In the name of so-called trial of the 1971 collaborators, in the attempt to ostracize a certain section of the people, in the name of fighting so-called Islamic terrorism, that government persecuted the majority community in the country. They persecuted the Muslims. So that's why in the revolution itself, it had an Islamic character because of the action of the previous government. Number two. And number three, it was also a nationalist movement. Why? Because the young boys and girls who shed their blood, why they shed their blood? To reclaim the sovereignty of the country, to reclaim the independence of the country. which was surrendered by the fallen regime to the fit of Delhi. So it was a nationalist movement, absolutely unique, an organic movement which combines all the elements of secular ideals, Islamic ideals, and nationalist ideals. I do not find a comparable revolution in the history. I mean, you can talk about the, let's say, Tunisian revolution in 2010, but Tunisian revolution was against an authoritarian regime. It was not so much against any foreign power. Although the Tunisian dictator Ben Ali fled to Saudi Arabia, but it was not that Saudi Arabia was ruling Tunisia at that time. So Saudi Arabia was to Ben Ali just a refuge for Ben Ali to Saudi Arabia. But in the case of Bangladesh, it is actually Delhi ruling Bangladesh. It was not that the Bangladeshis was ruling Bangladesh. It was Delhi ruling Bangladesh through its puppet regime here. So that's why it is very difficult to find a similar revolution in the world. And also another uniqueness of that revolution is it was unarmed. It was not an armed revolution. It was an unarmed revolution. So that is also very unique. So what happened? Hasina fled to Delhi, and the design of Delhi, it was all smashed. So I think that the July Revolution was the greatest foreign policy disaster for India. India also had previous foreign policy disaster. I give you an example. 1962, Sino-Indian War, in which India lost. That was one of the most disastrous foreign policy disaster for India, which still haunts India, the defeat in 1962 war. Then again in 1987, defeat in Sri Lanka. So that was also a disaster for India in the foreign policy, when it lost to the Tamil Tigers in Jaffna in Sri Lanka. And then also in 2024, there was another smaller foreign policy disaster for India in Maldives. Because in the Maldives election in 2024, the present President Muizzu, he contested in the election with single plank, oust India. That was his slogan in the election, the oust India slogan. So that was also a foreign policy disaster. But the disaster in Bangladesh is unmatched. Because, why you know? Because India always tried to show Bangladesh as its shining example of foreign policy success in the world. That they used to claim during the whole 15 years, that Bangladesh is the example of our foreign policy success. But finally, they lost. In fact, I was doing a study on Indian hegemonic design in South Asia, and I finished that study in 2022, incidentally in August, exactly 2 years before the revolution. And there, I want to read a few lines from the conclusion of that study. That will be very, I think, will be very relevant and interesting. So why I wrote in August 2022, quote, I conclude this section by arguing that India had succeeded in establishing its hegemonic control over Bangladesh with the assistance of its local political and ideological allies, although there is serious resentment against Indian hegemony amongst the people of the country. India may continue to enjoy its hegemonic control in the affairs of Bangladesh as long as the current pro-Indian government would be able to cling to power. But it will never be able to earn the allegiance and trust of the people. The anti-India sentiment in Bangladesh has increased sharply over the last decade, largely due to current regime's subservient foreign policy in regards to India, the interference of New Delhi in the domestic politics of Bangladesh, Indian support for the unpopular authoritarian regime in Dhaka, the Indian media's persistent negative projection of Bangladesh and its people. It is still ongoing, the negative projection by Indian media. The threat perception of the common people arising out of the asymmetry of power and the continued and increasing persecution of Muslims in India. So what I said in 2022, that this Indian hegemony is not sustainable. Alhamdulillah, the July martyrs have proven me right. I salute to all July martyrs and their families. So now I will come to the conclusion of my paper. I made it very short, so I don't want to bore you, you know. So I wanted to make it very short. So the conclusion part I want to read, because that will be that is important, because the conclusion part is always important. So let me read from my paper. The revolution in Bangladesh in 2024 is an interesting study in regional geopolitics for political scientists and historians. India has continuously behaved like an aggressive regional hegemonic power since the subcontinent was partitioned in 1947, giving birth to the Hindu majority independent state of India and the Muslim majority independent state of Pakistan. Although India was successful in bifurcating Pakistan, but in the process, it gave rise to another Muslim majority country at its eastern border. So that went against Indian interest to create another Muslim majority country at the eastern border. New Delhi devised a strategy over time to install a subservient government in Dhaka by manipulating the military and civil administration in the country. So India did manipulate both military and civil administration and judiciary in Bangladesh to establish its hegemonic control. Indian government used to project Hasina-led Bangladesh as one of its shining foreign policy successes. Modi ignored the fact that popular anger was brewing against draconian rule of his puppet. Young people resented that their right of franchise was denied and civic space drastically curtailed. India ignored the reality and blindly backed Hasina to the exclusion of everyone else without any plan B. Now the regional giant is left to sulk and lick its wound. I hope that Indian leadership will accept the failure in its foreign policy doctrine with humility, to give some time for introspection. After all, Bangladesh is only the last in the list of many major geopolitical failures of India in South Asia. Buoyed by the electoral success of extremist Hindu majoritarian politics, the current arrogant regime in Delhi has alienated all its neighbors. India has become out of touch with public sentiment in the region and now facing the inevitable backlash. The regional giant has lost its influence over Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka over the last 2 decades. It is unfortunate that in the aftermath of the revolution in Dhaka, the reaction from New Delhi has not been conducive for rapprochement in order to develop a healthy bilateral relationship. There has been a total failure by the policymakers in India to comprehend the long-held genuine grievances against the puppet and repressive regime of Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh. Delhi's insistence on various conspiracy theories and playing minority card demonstrates its total failure to grasp the complexity of the situation. The Indian government underestimated the extent of people's organic resentment against Delhi for its unflinching support to an undemocratic and brutally autocratic regime for so long. It is now crucial for India to acknowledge that its ostrich policy in support of a hated regime in its eastern neighborhood has failed. The populist Hindu nationalist policy of Narendra Modi may have paid dividend in domestic politics, but has caused serious harm in regards to regional interests. I would conclude by noting that India has behaved like a colonial master in the affairs of Bangladesh from January 2009 to August 2024, when Sheikh Hasina fled to Delhi under an undisclosed arrangement with Bangladesh Army and Indian deep state. With the departure of Hasina, 1.5 decades of complete hegemonic control of India over Bangladesh has finally come to an end. Political shift in Bangladesh could now force India to change its hegemonic approach in the region. Delhi must accept the uncomfortable truth that strong anti-India sentiment gradually brewed among the large section of the population of Bangladesh during the last 15 years because of the widespread perception of Indian hand in keeping Hasina in power without democratic mandate. Under the prevailing uncertain and evolving geopolitical situation, India needs to change its self-perception from that of a dominant hegemon to a well-intentioned leader in South Asia, a region that suffers from discord and enmity of historical nature. India needs to cooperate with the neighborhood to transform South Asia into a peaceful and stable region from which it may emerge as a natural leader with the acceptance of all intra and extra-regional actors. The July revolution in Bangladesh can also be an eye-opener. This is for the Islamic world. My last line is for the Islamic world. The July revolution in Bangladesh can also be an eye-opener for other autocratic rulers in the Islamic world, that it may be a matter of time before the persecuted General Mosque can unite, revolt, and unseat puppet governments of foreign powers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your insights, sir. Now we would like to call on stage Mr. John F. Danilowicz, who's a retired American diplomat from the U.S. Department of State. He was also the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of the United States of America in Bangladesh and a former Dean of the College of Business at Florida Atlantic University.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real honor to be here with you today. I want to thank the organizers for the invitation, and I want to start also by paying my respects to the martyrs and victims of the past 15 years and their family members. I want to also echo what previous speakers have said and acknowledge the historic role of Dhaka University, not just in 2024, but in previous efforts to promote democracy in Bangladesh. It's great to see so many friends here and to connect with so many new friends who I've met in a virtual environment over the past year. I have to confess, it's a tough act to follow my two friends, the previous two speakers, the Honorable Advisor, Adila Rahman Khan, and Dr. Mahmudur Rahman, for whom I have great respect. And I am here as much to learn as to share my own views. In the few minutes that I have before me, I have a very simple goal, and it's just to provide one international perspective on the July Revolution and its aftermath. Before I begin, though, I do feel a need to give a disclaimer. As has been noted, I'm a retired U.S. diplomat. For 32 years, I had the honor of serving my country, including 3 times here in Bangladesh. But for the past 4 years, I've been a private citizen. I work with an organization called Right to Freedom, and what attracted me most to that organization was its name, freedom. I value freedom. I value my own freedom, including my own freedom of speech, and I value the freedom of others around the world. So in that regard, what I say today represents only my views, not those of my organizations, and certainly not those of the United States government. The first point I want to make, again, I think is an obvious one, but it bears repeating. The July Revolution was not a product of any foreign regime or any foreign deep state. The revolution of Bangladesh was born, flourished, and succeeded here because of the work of the people of Bangladesh. Now, it's hard to prove a negative. I can't give convincing proof to the skeptics that the United States or the foreign countries did not do something, but I challenge those who promote these conspiracy theories to provide evidence to the contrary. To date, I've seen none. So my position on this is that there is absolutely no evidence to prove a foreign hand in the revolution of July 2024. I also want to note that just as the revolution was a mass movement here, as was outlined by the previous speaker very eloquently, globally, the support for the revolution came from a diverse set of individuals. Some were, like me, friends of Bangladesh, but many were members of Bangladeshi diaspora. And I'm very proud that one of my good friends, Syed Badrul Alam, is here with me today, one of the leading diaspora voices in the northeastern part of the United States, based outside of Boston, and a colleague of mine with the organization Right to Freedom. I believe the global diaspora played a critical role in mobilizing international public opinion during the revolution. That said, after the revolution succeeded, I do not believe Bangladesh, and particularly the interim government, was prepared for the relentless attack that came, both an information war and broader destabilization efforts that began very soon after the revolution and continue today. So while the revolution succeeded in winning back freedom, those gains are not guaranteed. So they require continued and everlasting vigilance. I believe the interim government deserves great credit for its success in mobilizing an international coalition after the July Revolution, utilizing and taking full advantage of Professor Yunus's global stature. As an American citizen, not as an American government official, I'm very proud of the role that the United States played, both immediately after the revolution from the Biden administration, and then to the surprise of many who perhaps wished that the United States would change course after January of 2025 when President Trump was inaugurated. Since then, in recent months, since President Trump's inauguration, strong U.S. support for the interim government and the efforts to build a Bangladesh 2.0 have continued. That said, I think we have to acknowledge that events elsewhere in the world, developments in Ukraine, certainly the Middle East and in the United States itself, and in how the U.S. is approaching the world, has resulted in Bangladesh fading from the headlines. There was a great deal of attention about what was happening in Bangladesh last July and August. I'm sure there will be attention paid in the coming days to the one-year anniversary, but Bangladesh is not in the headlines on a daily basis around the world. And this is something I think has to be kept in mind as we look for ways to support the efforts here. I don't believe enough attention is paid to the eighth most populous country in the world, which is vitally important to the United States and others. I also want to note that while the crimes of the Hasina regime are well understood and need to be highlighted, I want to caution the interim government and its successors that they will not be immune to criticism on governance issues and human rights issues from their friends around the world and from the international community. Also, as was noted, much of the impetus for the revolution came because of economic factors, the desire for people to have a better life, the desire of young people to have jobs and economic opportunities. I believe that the global private sector is an important component of building a Bangladesh 2.0. Bangladesh needs to attract foreign investment in order to help create these jobs and opportunities. That said, the global private sector will make decisions about investment and trade opportunities based on economics, not politics. Bangladesh's current government and its successors will need to focus on ways to attract this investment. I also want to caution that those who want to turn back the clock, those supporters of the previous regime and their beneficiaries, understand or are beginning to understand how the revolution took place, and they're likely to replicate the tactics of those who were successful in overthrowing the regime last year. Those who want to resist this, I think all of us in this room, also need to study the mistakes that the Hasina government made and ensure that future governments in Bangladesh, including the present and its elected successor, don't repeat those mistakes as they respond to what's sure to be provocations coming. And then finally, in terms of an academic event like this and the network of global scholars that has been referred to, I think it is important to recognize that each case is unique. And certainly, as has been mentioned, there's much about July 2024 which is unique in world history. Yet I think it's still worthwhile to study other revolutions and uprisings, both in their immediate aftermath and in their subsequent course, to learn some important lessons. So I believe there will be a continuing role for international scholars in Bangladesh and around the world, and I applaud those who are working so hard to build a network of those who care about this country and its future. Finally, I'll leave you with a thought which has been very much on my mind beginning last July and August and in the month and years since. I believe a key for Bangladesh as it moves forward is to harness the spirit of 2024, and provide space for Gen Z, those who were on the front lines of the revolution, who provided the vanguard. This is key for me to ensure that the future of Bangladesh is different from its past. I also want to highlight the need to focus on the victims, meeting both their material and their spiritual needs. Finally, as Bangladesh charts its future course, I believe that solutions to Bangladesh's challenges must be local solutions. But lessons can be learned from others, and others, when they extend a helping hand, should find ways to contribute to building this new Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us. With that, we would like to conclude our inaugural session for today's conference. I would like to request one of our conveners, Dr. Muhammad Asadullah, to declare the order of the next few sessions.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming in this wonderful conference. There are three major parts of this conference. This is our part one, and then there will be part two with parallel sessions. Like there are 10 presentations in 10 different rooms, and then part three is here in this room again around 2:15 p.m. So what I suggest is I will share some kind of key announcements. Hopefully you will remember. Number one, there are 10 panels. Panel one will be in this room, and then we have session chair. We have all the presenters in this particular room. Panel two will be in the Faculty of Social Science. I'm sure that the panelist and also the panel chair and all of them are here, and they will know where is room number 401 in the Faculty of Social Science, Department of Political Science Department. So panel, I'm just, because in your name tag, you should have panel number. If you have panel number 10, panel number 9, panel 8, I'm going to from back order. Panel 7, panel 6, you will leave from that particular door in that particular corner in my left side. If you are in panel 1, you will be in this particular room. If you are in panel 2, 3, 4, and 5, you will go from this particular door, which is in my left side. So there are, as I said, there are multiple, and there will be volunteers with those numbers. They will take you to those rooms as smoothly as possible. We will start our parallel session as early as possible, and the parallel session will continue up until 12:30, and then you will be here around 12:30 for poster presentation in the hallway of the Senate Bhavan. We have around 60 poster presentations, and then from 12:30 to 1, that poster presentation will continue, and then from 1 to 2 p.m. there will be lunch for all of you. You come here, we have very delicious, wonderful lunch. You will have, and you will enjoy that lunch and prayer. And then we will resume our afternoon session exactly at 2:15. So please be here by 2 p.m. And then obviously we will have Honorable Nurul Izzah, the daughter of Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister, the Malaysian Prime Minister. We will also have all the extraordinary multiple keynotes. We have 6 more keynotes in the afternoon session. And then the last is, all of you have complimentary ticket for an extraordinary natok at TSC Auditorium at 7 p.m. You can bring your family and children, your spouse, all of them are welcome. We'll have Mustafa Sarar Faruqi, one of the advisors, who will inaugurate that particular session at 7 p.m. It's a whole day, very packed conference. So right now, if you do not have any specific number in your name tag, then it means you can come and then we will guide you which panel you would like to go. But if you are in panel number 10, panel number 9, panel number 8, panel number 7, panel number 6, please go and then leave from that particular corner of the room in my right side. If you are in panel 1, stay here in this particular room. If you're in panel 2, 3, 4, and 5, please go to the left door over here. And we will see you at around 2 p.m. in this particular room again. We will have parallel sessions from now up until 12:30, and then from 12:30 to 1 p.m. will be poster presentation in Senate Bhavan, and then 1 to 2 p.m. will be lunch, and then obviously from 2 p.m. you will come here, and there are 6 more keynotes. So definitely come. If you miss it, you will miss the most important part, and maybe one of the most important part of the conference. And gift, yeah. Akram bhai, can you give the gift to John, please? So panel 10, panel 9, panel 8 and panel 7, panel 6 in this particular room. Okay, good. And then panel 1 will be in this particular room. It will take a little bit time. If you do not have any panel, please come to me. I will help you which panel you would love to go. So panel 1, Dr. Takian Fakrul will be chairing the session. All the authors, please stay here, and then you will have specific directions from the volunteers what exactly you have to do. Panel 2, Dr. Fariduddin Ahmad will chair, and then it will be at the Faculty of Social Science. Please go there, room number 401. Panel 3 will be in this particular building in the Senate Seminar Hall. If you just go one step down, you will find that room. Dr. Cynthia McKinney will be chairing the session. And then panel number 4, Dr. Joshimuddin will chair the session. That will be in RC Mojumdar Auditorium. Please go there. Panel number 5, Dr. Najrul Islam will chair the session. It will be in the Department of Political Science, room number 402. And then panel number 6, Dr. Misbahul Azam from Jagannath University. Professor will moderate that session at Muzaffar Ahmad Chaudhry Auditorium. And then panel 7 will be Dr. M. Shariful Alam Jinnah sir will chair, and that particular session will be in room number 403. And then finally, panel number 9 will be Dr. S.M. Ali Reza, and he will chair the session at the Peace and Conflict Studies Department, room number 1041. And then finally, Dr. Sajjad will moderate the session for panel number 10, room number 1013, Peace and Conflict Studies Department. These are all announcements. Thank you very much. I will see all of you here in this particular room at 2 p.m. Enjoy all the parallel sessions, enjoy your lunch, and definitely enjoy your hangout, networking, all of it in this particular conference. And do not forget to come here at 2 p.m.